Okay, we're on to our next learning target with right triangles, and this should be a review from geometry also, but just in case. We are going to find the angle of a right triangle. That's our learning target, find the angle of a right triangle. In order to do this, you need to go back to all those ratios we wrote, like sine of theta equals 4/5. That's a ratio that we came up with the other day. And what we're going to do today is we want to actually find theta, or x, or whatever your variable is, p, whatever your variable is. In order to do that, we have to use the inverse function. So we can say that theta equals the sine inverse of 4/5. Well, this to the -1 right here is something that you're going to see in calc also. That's an inverse function. I actually call this the arcsine. They mean the same thing. So the arcsine of 4/5, sometimes you'll see it written out arcsine. This is also arcsine, or the inverse sine. And in order to actually get theta, you're going to need your calculator. So in your calculator, it's usually a second function. And I can help you with this in class if you're not sure where to do this at. But you're going to take, the arcsine of 4/5 in your calculator. So it's usually the second sine and then 4 divided by 3. And this to the 10th is 53.1. That means the angle that you're talking about up here in this equation is 53.1. So what you're going to have is you're going to have right triangles today. Kind of like what we did in the last couple lessons. Sorry about my bad right triangles. They're never wonderful. And maybe this time we don't know theta. But we know that this side over here is 6 and this side is 8. So we kind of go back to our SOHCAHTOA again, but what do we know? We know the opposite and the hypotenuse. And we know opposite over hypotenuse is sine. So I make my equation, sine of theta equals 6/8. You could write that as 3/4 if you want. But what I want today is I want to actually know what that is. I don't want just the ratio anymore. I want to know what theta is. So theta equals the arcsine, or the inverse sine, of 3/4 or 6/8. It doesn't matter what you put in your calculator, it's going to give you that. So the inverse sine of 3 divided by 4 is theta equals 48.6 degrees to the nearest tenth. You can handle problems like that. The biggest thing, the math is not hard. It's making sure you use the right trig function. Here I use sine because I have opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, let's try one more, just to make sure we're all on the same page and we know this. If you got this down, you can be done. But be sure you can do these types of problems tomorrow in class. So the last example was solving for an angle. Let's see, here's my right triangle. And here's theta. So I have theta here. I have a side of 10, a side of 7. I don't know the hypotenuse. So I need to first figure out what trig ratio that's going to be. I have opposite and adjacent, no hypotenuse. So opposite adjacent is tangent. So the tangent of theta equals the opposite, which is 7/10. And into my calculator, theta equals the arctan, or the inverse tan, of 7/10. And I have to grab my calculator and punch that in. So arctan of 7/10 is going to round to 35 degrees. Sorry about that. 35 degrees. Great. See you in class tomorrow.